Let's move forward now, step number 72, and that's installing our upper A-arms. Once you have them built, you're going to take the nut retainer and it's going to slide in with the nut side down into the block on the side of your hub here, and it should slide in until it's even. You can see how it takes up this little space here. I'm going to do that on both sides. Take one of your A-arms, and as we install these, we're going to look at the back here, and the V shape. We're going to consider this side straight and this side the V shape. It goes towards the back. Actually, that one goes on that side. This one I have built upside down. So I actually did that on purpose. Again, the straight portion here is going to go towards the front, and the V portion is going to go towards the back, and you're going to want these pointed in the opposite direction. They need to be pointed up. I built that one backwards because it's a common error that people make, and they wonder why it isn't aligned properly. So it should look like this, with this pointing upward while the V shape is towards the back. And if you're not quite sure which is the V-shaped side, if you put this in backwards, it's not going to properly align up with the hub. When you put it in the proper way, it lines up straight with the hub. Let's take one of our rods. We're going to stick it through the bulkhead. I'm going to take this off for a second because we're going to have to jiggle this around a little bit. There's no C-clips on here. We're going to jiggle it around to go through the upright. We're going to slide our upper A-arm in and wiggle it until it goes through. And then we're going to keep wiggling it until it completely goes in. And it's going to go in quite a bit more than that. There we go. You can see it going into the forward portion of the bulkhead here as you're working it in. And you do want to make sure that you get it all the way in. Sometimes if you want, you can give it a little whack to make sure it's in. Let's go ahead and do the second side. That way we can measure the two rods to make sure that they're both actually pushed in all the way. And again, we want the V portion facing towards the back, and this to cant upwards. Slide that in. Make sure it's going into the bulkhead, which this one is not. So we're going to just wiggle it around until it goes in. Doesn't look like it's going to want to go in, so we're going to grab the enforcer if we can find it. Got a hammer here somewhere. Oh well, we'll just use this. See if we can get it to go in. Not sure if that is really in all the way or not. We'll find out sooner or later in our next step, or in a step coming up here. I just don't think that those are going in far enough for some reason. And I'm not quite sure why. I'm going to play a little trick here. This is something that I've had to do before, and I'm going to loosen up this upright just a little bit to see if that might be causing some binding here. And that way I can wiggle it. There we go. See, I wiggled it, and you can see the difference in the length here between this one and this one. So now this one is properly slid all the way in. So I'm going to tighten that back up. I'm going to move around to the second one, loosen this up a little bit. Wiggle this around. There we go. Slides right in. You can see now there's about a pinky width hanging out. How's that for an exact measurement? Don't forget to tighten these back up. And now those are properly installed. We are now going to take the long bolts, stick them down through the ball, and if all goes well and you're all aligned properly, that should drop right down on there. And we'll screw it in. Now we don't have to worry about our dog bones falling out if we lift up on the suspension here. There we go. Now we can lift up and Mr. Bill. Oh no! Okay, so much fun. That's what we're looking like. Still want to go through and make sure that there's no binding going on. You also want to turn the lay shaft, make sure that there's no binding going on through the drivetrain. Should freely turn. It's not going to spin, loosely, but it's not going to be bound up. You should be very easily turnable with your hands. There we go. We're getting somewhere now. And you can see the length on these is about like yay. Just a quick comparison to make sure that you have yours all the way in. Alrighty. We are going to move on to our next step, 73, and build some sway bar links. Moving forward to step number 73, I've pre-built the linkage for the sway bars, and if you need some help with that, I covered that in a previous video. So go ahead and refer back to that one so we're not wasting your time. The one thing that I did do a little bit different than what is in the manual is I pre-installed this ball from step number 74 before we got going. Why are we not focusing? There we go. Come on. Yeah, camera issues here. Oh well. So we installed the ball, and as you're looking at it, the back of the ball goes in the same direction as that little puppy does. So that's how it should look. We're going to take the long screws and we are going to install them into this hole that is in the back of the A-arm, about the center. We're going to install that in. Lift this up off the ground a little bit to make it easier. And the screw should push all the way through. We're going to go ahead and do that on both sides. And now we're going to put a little bit of Loctite on there, because we certainly don't want those coming off. Just a little dab. And we're going to now put the sway bars in. It's a little bit hard to get them aligned, and that's why I lifted it up off the ground so I could use my finger underneath as I screw it in. You can use a pair of needle nose to hold it if you can't get the right angle. There we go. Got it going now. Screw that in. Then we'll use the provided 7mm wrench to hold it. Maybe. Use a pair of pliers while we tighten it down. Just like so. Going to go ahead and repeat that process on the second side. This is what it's going to look like when you're done. You can access it from the bottom, turn it over if you choose. But that's how it looks. Going to go ahead and repeat that process, and we'll be back. Go ahead and lay out your pieces for step number 75.